this is Mike Kenny with the 80 Maniacs Forum. Today we're fortunate enough to have Cliff MacMillan from the Screen Factory line. He's also been responsible for Shout Factory's Roger Corman's Cult Classics line, so Cliff's been cool enough to take some time and talk to us and take some questions from the board. First and foremost, Cliff, I want to thank you for taking the time to discuss all this stuff. And before we jump into all the greatness that is the Screen Factory line, I want to just head back a few years to when you started the Roger Corman Cult Classics line. You kind of gave the definitive releases of Piranha, Death Race 2000, Rock and Roll High School, as well as other Corman fare like Street Walkin' and Streets, Twice Evil, So with 62 films across 33 releases, the lines kind of started to slow its pace. So now that the Screen Factory line has kind of emerged, do you see the Corman line on its final days?
Yeah, I mean, we're out of movies. Actually, I think we have maybe 4 or 5 left, but the line sales started to go down drastically after we got through the big ones. To the point where a lot of the titles were premiering on our website, like Streets and Streetwalkin'. And yeah, I mean, I think we did everything that we could with the line. I don't really think there's much more to go back to get if we wanted to. Some people have said, well, you released the Carnosaur movies, and like I mentioned in the other, or it was talked about in the other panel, you often have to go back and look to see what the Carnosaur movies did previously, and they didn't sell very well. Yeah. So it's very hard for me to go in and get the support of Shout Factory when a title sold 1,500 units, before. So I think unfortunately, I just don't think there's anything else left to do at the Corman Library.
In the past, you've mentioned how clearly the materials for the Corman Library were kept. Was there any particular film in that library that gave you guys the most trouble, biggest headaches?
Now I have a lot more gray hair since doing the Roger Corman line. I think they really were all tough. The only ones that were real easy were Piranha, Galaxy of Terror, and Humanoids from the Deep, because MGM had the foreign sales on those movies, so they had elements as well, and their elements were pristine. And the only real surprise was Death Race 2000, because most of the original negatives are all gone. They're all trashed at one point. Death Race 2000, we found the original camera negative. So that one looks gorgeous, I think. That's one myself, yeah. That's one of the most proudest ones. And her Humanoids from the Deep, because it was so funny, the guy from MGM who I deal with for film elements, he goes, I have this reel with Humanoids of the Deep on it that says the nude insert. He's like, do you want this? I'm like, yeah, I want it, But it was unfortunate we could never find any sound that matched it, so it's silent. But it's great to see that footage that I've never seen it before.
Sure. Were there any films that you personally wanted to see join the Corman line, but the materials just weren't available, or they weren't in the most workable condition for you guys to deal with?
No, I think we did everything that we had the rights to. I mean, some didn't look as good as you would hope. Whenever you're using a film print, your result is going to be hit or miss, depending on what the shape of the print is. But like Suburbia, all the film elements have turned completely purple because they hadn't been stored properly. So some of those were more difficult than others, but no, there wasn't anything we couldn't do. We kept searching.
Is there a film in the Corman line that you were the most proud of overall? Packaging, speakers, print, everything?
I think Death Race 2000.
Yeah, I would agree.
Piranha was fun, but yeah, I think Death Race, because I think that master was good, so yeah, I'm most proud of that.
Since this interview is being conducted on behalf of the 80 Maniacs Forum, a poster actually submitted a really interesting question that hopefully you could maybe shed some light on. Shout had announced the release of a Filipino-US production, Fly Me, and then later it was apparently canceled because it was a bad print that had missing frames. However, there was a number of people across forums that had said that they still wanted to see the film, bad frames and whatnot. So overall, the shout released the film, and Poster want to know how big of an effect did the fans have on that decision that shout made over.
I barely remember that, but yeah, I mean, you let I think it's important to listen to the fans, and if they're going to embrace something that you're not sure about putting out because the whole film isn't there, things are missing. Yeah, I mean, if the fans come forward and say release it, we want to do that. And then there will be some that will complain, but there's, especially with the Corman line, I mean, there just really wasn't anything we could do. I mean, we had what we had to work with, and some of it was pretty bad, and we just made the best that we could out of it.
Could you shed some light on the process of what it's like tracking former cast members or production crew members to partake in the making of the special features?
You know, it's funny. It almost makes you feel sometimes like a private detective, trying to search these people down. Like Michael Felsher does a lot of it, and I have another producer that I use. But sometimes you just go on Facebook, you just, talk to other people. Like Joe Dante was very helpful because he knew where a lot of people were and knew how to get in touch with them.
Right?
Yeah, oh my God. The most amazing moment when we were shooting, we spent 2 days shooting a lot of the Corman interviews in the beginning, and I couldn't believe I'm sitting in this hotel room with Joe Dante and Peter Fonda and talking about Roger Corman movies, and Joe Dante knew more about Peter Fonda's films than he did. It was just hilarious. He was like, yeah, you did that movie, It was just, it was crazy.
The man has like an uncanny memory.
Yeah.
I mean, on trailers from hell, before he introduces a trailer, he'll remember the day and the theater. He saw it all. I saw it in this year at the Montclair Theater. It's remarkable, really, to have an invaluable source like that.
He was very helpful. I mean, I contacted him, and we released the trailers from Hell disc too, which unfortunately didn't do very well. But he had a Little Shop of Horrors print that he, donated to us for that extra feature on there. But in the time when he sent that to us, it was really not in very good shape. We found another element, and that's why it looks pretty great. It came from England, too. And so for a few scratches that we couldn't get rid of. But, yeah, he's just a wealth of knowledge, and he was very fun to do.
In your business, under various circumstances, things can be prepared for a disc, but left off before the final product hits stores, or things might not come together, like in the case of Terror Train, where the director commentary didn't work out. What's involved in the process that ultimately determines what's going to stay, or what has to go to make the final cut?
The only reason something would possibly go would be, A, we didn't like the way it turned out and didn't feel it was worthwhile, or there's a legal reason as to why we couldn't include it. And, like Terror Train was very unfortunate because right up until the moment, we had the director, he backed out a few times, and then he said, okay, I'll do it, and then right at the end he backed out again. Just didn't feel he, had anything to say about the film, or to some point, I think he's wrong in this, is that I think he was embarrassed by the film, but it's, it's a great film. I mean, it's his first movie, what do you expect? But sometimes it's legal issues, or rights issues to footage, that can sometimes cause that problem. And the other thing I just want to mention is that the time that we put something to bed, the artwork and everything has to be done like 3 months prior to when it finally is out. So in most cases I haven't finished the final version of the disc, and the artwork has already gone to the printer, so sometimes there's been issues where things have been on the art that weren't on the final release.
Right. Just to close up on the Corman line, it seems by the time Black Oak Conspiracy and Naked Angels hit the Shout Select line, there wasn't a ton left to the library to cover. for better or worse, whether people are happy with that. It's the truth, guys. There really wasn't a lot of, quality titles left, but although there are still a lot of fans that are hopeful that they'll still see the student nurses as well as the teachers' films hit the collection. In addition, Savage was at one point linked to being a double bill with Black Oak Conspiracy, but it never came to fruition along with the Hot Box and Woman Hunt. Should fans still hold out hope for those handful?
It really, when it came down to the end, it was, we spent a lot of money restoring that library with, certain movies did so well that they helped pay for the deal, but I would say 80% of the titles didn't make their money back. So when it got near the end, it was like, we can't really afford to retransfer these movies, especially because we're spending so much time trying to clean these things up, like the 3 Women in Prison movies. I'm actually pretty proud of that too.
Those were like when you guys first
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were lucked out on some of the film elements. I would love to do Woman Hunt. I would love to do Hot Box. Is it Hot Box?
Yeah, the Hot Box.
Yeah.
Savage.
Especially because Jonathan Demme was great and did several titles for us, and he was involved in the Hot Box. But in the end, the cost of doing the transfer, the packaging, the authoring, all that kind of stuff, we were probably going to lose money on those last few titles, unfortunately, and we just couldn't do it.
Right. Just going slightly off radar from the horror and cult flicks we're dying to discuss, I have to bring up your involvement in Shout's release of Casper, Friendly Ghost, the complete collection. I feel like that was a release that kind of came and went, and not many people took notice to it, or let alone your involvement in producing the set. That collection was packed with not only the classic cartoons, but terrific interviews, comic book gallery, really comprehensive booklet liner, notes by Mark Arnold. Can you tell us how that project came about and what went into bringing that all together?
Thank you for mentioning it. There was a handful of titles that I licensed from Classic because they were cartoons that I grew up with and loved. Not necessarily Casper, but that was an addition. But like Underdog and Tennessee Tuxedo and all those I grew up on, loved them. Those projects ended up being somewhat of a nightmare again because, nobody back in those days learned to archive and hold on to things. So, like Casper was okay, but there were like those first 3 shorts, I had to pull them from the same public domain, versions that have ever been out because nothing exists. Classic Media didn't have them. So, but Classic had most of them, and some were in better shape than others, and again, but like when it came to Underdog and Tennessee Tuxedo, they never saved the shows as they were built in the original run. They later in syndication cut them all up, with Tennessee, with Underdog, and so forth. And so we had to, with Mark Arnold's help, try and put the shows back together again, especially with Underdog. And it was a friggin' nightmare, to get the thing done, and we spent a ton of money on it, and then it came out and it didn't do very well. And it's really sad when you spend all this time working on something you're so passionate about it.
Especially something that's so classic and iconic.
Yeah, and it doesn't work, and it's a shame. I've spent the better part of a year on Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids.
Yeah, that's been pushed back a few times.
Yeah, because of Bill Cosby, and it's. Those animated titles were somewhat of a nightmare, and it was really disheartening when that happens. But it happens.
So basically, for what it's worth, DreamWorks kind of has their work cut out for them after their acquisition of the Classic Media Library. So I think Shout Factory probably did as good a job as they could have under the circumstances. So we thank you for that.
They were tough projects.
And of course, now moving on to Cliff and Jeff Nelson and Michael Felcher are all here at Horror Hunt in Indianapolis and it's the Scream Factory line. It's been stated on an almost daily basis in forums just how epic and amazing this collection has been, but luckily we don't need to go into the whole origins of everything. This is a forum for the hardcore fans, so now we can just talk shop about all the good stuff. So obviously, Cliff, it's been known for months now that you guys managed to secure a deal with MGM, which in many genre fans' eyes, it's like the holy grail of horror and cult titles, which is, you know, what Michael talked about. So take us back to the beginning, how that all kind of came about.
Well, I actually really want to go back. I worked for BCI, BCI, and near the end, I had put together a list of MGM titles that I wanted, and ended up meeting this guy, David Packer, who was the head of television, and we worked on this deal. We picked the movies, and like things that people don't know about is when I gave them the list, they had to go back through all the legal documents and files to see if anybody had approval over name and likeness, you know, artwork. I mean, tons of cleared the music. All the music had to be cleared. So they went through all this work to clear the movies, and then BCI went. And I mean, it was so sad for me because I'd spent so much time on it. So at MGM, but then to see where all that work went was to Netflix, because they had cleared all these movies, they had to do something with it, and that's why Sugar Hill and Rolling Thunder and all of that stuff started coming out. All those MOD titles that they put out, those were all my picks. And it was nice to see them finally come out. Incredible Melting Man. It was nice to see them come out, but it was tough because I had secured these movies. We were ready to do the deal.
You weren't hoping to see them dumped into a mod.
They agreed to all the financial terms and everything, and then BCI was collapsed. I tried to resurrect that with David Packer when I went to Shout Factory, but at the time Shout wasn't known for movies. They were known for TV shows and animation, content stuff. So, you know, couldn't get it off the ground. Kept going back and back to MGM, trying to find, you know, David Packer left, he went to Lionsgate, kept talking with them, and they finally came to us and said, look, we're putting this list together, we'll circulate it, you can look at it, see what you want, make us an offer, and, you know, we'll see if we can work out a deal. So what they ended up doing is they split the library in two, the titles. So we got most of the ones that I really wanted. Some of them went to the GAR group. They're also called TGG, I guess is their name. They're a budget company.
Right.
And, you know, they put 5 movies on a disc or something like that. So, yeah, so that's how we got the bulk of the MGM deal. In addition to that, the person that I was dealing with was somebody I know from past history. So I kept starting to feed him names of other movies, and you know, hoping that they would agree to do it. And you know, so far our relationship with MGM is amazing. They've been so helpful, and they love what we do and want it. So we've been able to add, you know, about 20 more titles to the list.
Wow.
Includes, you know, like it was announced today, The Howling, The Fog, Night of the Comet, things like that. I had to go back and ask for this.
Right. So you would say in the beginning you were kind of giving them a list, and then kind of as the relationship developed, you kind of were given more free reign?
Yeah, they sort of said, don't send us any more lists, we're going to send you the list that we want you to pick from, and that's how we got the majority of it. The TerrorVisions, the Video Deads, things like that, were all from a list that MGM had already given to us and said, these are available.
Right.
And it was a huge list. It took me weeks to go through it and figure out what, you know, we wanted to make an offer on, and you know, there's going to be a lot of great releases next year. I mean, if I was not working in this business, I would be looking for a second job, because there's a lot of stuff coming next year.
Now, with you guys mentioned in the panel in the MGM deal, MGM's library is just a bunch of different libraries mounted on top of one another. So obviously, we know that the Empire Pictures, you know, is definitely a big asset to you guys with Prison and TerrorVision, and obviously now Life Force is a canon film. So begs the question: can we expect more canon films in the future?
There are more canon films in the future. There are definitely more Empire titles. There's that great article in the new Horror Hound on Empire Pictures.
Yeah,
And it's like I'm looking at the magazine, going, oh, you got that one there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're more Empire, more Canon.
Are you involved with securing titles? I mean, obviously, Canon has such a diverse, wacky catalog.
Yeah.
So are you guys securing things not just for Screen Factory, but for Shout Factory?
Yes.
Okay.
There are non-genre titles that are coming. They're from the Canon library, like...
Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No, not that, but we're putting Exterminator 2 out for the first time.
Oh, great.
And, I don't think it was ever on DVD. No, it wasn't on
No,
DVD before.
I think maybe overseas they were attempting to do it.
We did a brand new HD transfer. Or did
And Dark Angel, I think, is coming.
The Dark Angel is coming.
Joshua Tree.
Joshua Tree. Those are from the Vision Film Library. The Rolling Thunder is finally coming. Blu-ray next year.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a big one because people have been mentioning. There's been hints on your Facebook page.
Yeah, I put it on my Facebook page, and everybody's like.
Moving along off of MGM, obviously you have you're doing business with Universal, securing Halloween 2 and 3 and Phantasm 2 and They Live. Is it fair to say that you'll be expecting more Universal titles in the future?
We are definitely talking to them right now about a second deal. So
great.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah. The usage of newly drafted artwork on the collector's edition titles have been terrific. I mean, Screen Factory is giving fans something new and unique and real quality. That's what fans love. But you guys are also giving fans the most important thing, which is options.
Yes.
The reversible cover arts with the great one-sheet poster artwork that we've always loved. How important was drafting these new artworks that would hold a candle to these classic posters?
Well, a lot of people said, oh, he's just copying what Arrow does, but actually the inspiration for it, actually I'd done it before. When I was at a company called Ventura Distribution, I did some Sonny Chiba titles, and we did, the original Japanese poster on one side and the new art that we did on the other side. So it's nothing new, but I love what Mondo does, in the Alamo Draft House, and these posters that they come out, they're just amazing. So that's really what I envisioned when it came to the Shout covers, and creating something new and cool like that, and the poster giveaway came from that, when you buy it off of the Shout side. So yeah, I love it. I think it really adds something. And when we showed the cover for Phantasm 2, and everybody's like, "Oh, that is so awful." It's like, God, guys, you've got to try different artists and try, it can't. I love Nathan. I picked Nathan because of his work on
that's the fun
magazine.
With each title, something new and unique.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so. And I love the artist who did Phantasm 2. He's done some amazing stuff. He did a Ms. 45 poster for a theater in the Midwest or something that is just beautiful. So,
speaking of that, has Shout kind of come around to your requests on that? Because Ms. 45, Ms. 45 is just a title that people want on this forum, and Cliff knows it. We all love it, but it's a tough sell.
That was a heartbreaker because again, something people don't know is as an acquisition person, I have to go into the president of the company, the head of sales, the head of marketing, and go in like a salesman and pitch the title to them.
Right.
And then from there, they come up with what they think we can sell on it. And then the finance people go through a whole big thing, and you have to see if the movie's going to make money. And whenever you're guessing on how many you're going to sell, you're never always right. You're never right. So, but our company is owned by people that are willing to take a chance in some of the crazy movies I bring to them. But in some cases, subject matter is something, because we have a deal with Hasbro, we have a deal with Nickelodeon, they're very protective of that Hasbro deal because it's very lucrative to release Transformers, and so you don't ever want to alienate one of your licensors with content that they feel that they don't want to be, in the canon of films that you have or projects you have. So you always have to keep that in mind.
It's a fine line.
Yeah. So from time to time, decisions are made, which are heartbreaking, but you know,
Right.
you don't know. I don't own the company, so I got to go with what the bosses say.
Right. Being a huge horror movie fan, I'm assuming you must have quite a collection of one-sheet movie posters. Do you have any favorites in your personal collection?
I worked in movie theaters for 9 years.
That's a bad place to start those collections.
Because then I went from there to buying, you know, actually before online, I was buying movie posters through a magazine that would come out. I think it was a monthly or something, and it was just people to put in ads for selling movie posters, and I just went crazy. So I have a lot. My jewel is the Clockwork Orange poster with the X rating on it before they pulled the movie and cut it.
It's a rare
Came
poster.
out as rated R, so that's probably the crown jewel.
Yeah.
And I have a Halloween poster that was signed by John Carpenter.
A few years back, the television series Werewolf was planned for released by Shout Factory, but it never materialized due to high music licensing costs.
It was a heartbreaker.
Has any consideration been put into introducing horror-related television shows under the Scream Factory banner, such as Freddy's Nightmares, Nightmare Cafe, or even Monsters? I know Brian Ward from Shout Factory has said that Shout's attempted to get Freddy's Nightmares, but sometimes they just don't want to let that one go.
This was Warner Brothers, and we still are talking with Warner. We just did a deal for Beetlejuice and the animated series and Mad TV, yeah. So we continue to talk to them. I think they, you know, since Freddy is part of such a much bigger, you know, entity, I think they'd rather hold on to it than sub-license it to somebody. As far as TV right now, Jeff Nelson, who's our marketing director, he really wants to stay focused on the 70s and 80s and so forth, and is a little resistant to adding, whether it be new movies or maybe, you know, TV is a possibility.
Because there's only so few that are left. I mean, Tales from the Dark Side, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt era. So there's really like just maybe even like less than a handful. Like Monsters, I know, is like that one big one that still plays on Chiller, and people are like, it's that one that sticks out like a sore thumb because everything else is out on DVD. So people might be curious.
TV on DVD business has sort of fallen off a little bit, so you have to really be very careful on what you pick up.
Right. I have to ask, I'm sure it's a sore subject, but with Warner Brothers now handling the distribution for several Paramount properties, including 600, several. I was just trying to soften the blow a little bit. It does include the Friday the 13th franchise. I know it hasn't been publicly said, but I know that you have said from time to time that you guys tried to get the Friday the 13th. Like,
Very
how
hard.
hard was that to just lock that?
We have done deals with Paramount for television product, and that's been very easy. When we did a film deal, I had given them quite a list, and the only thing we got out of it was the Walking Tall movies and The Duelist.
Right.
You know, good films, but it wasn't what I really wanted, and I pushed them hard for Friday the 13th, and it was right around the time that they did the DVD set with the mask.
Right.
So we're doing a DVD, you know, and we're gonna put the mask in there. And it's like, guys, you know, people have these on DVD. They want the rest on Blu-ray. And I said, hey, we'll transfer the films in high def if they don't exist, though they did. And you know, we'll author the Blu-ray and give you the master so you can use it if you want to do singles. I just want to do a box set of all of them, although we would have never gotten the two from Warner Brothers, so, you know, wouldn't
Which is
have been
fine, because
complete.
most people consider the first 8 the Paramount classic.
Yeah, I was actually going to call it the Paramount years, you know, but
too perfect.
it didn't happen, and they ended up doing the deal with Warner Brothers, so, you know, people seem to be very excited that Warner Brothers has it, and they have the other two, and they'll do it, and it's like, guys, Warner Brothers doesn't care about these kind of movies, and they'll just do an MOD version, because that's how they see the video business going forward, is just to sell you the stuff off their website.
Right.
So, I don't know, it sucks. It's only a 3-year deal, so who knows what might happen.
It's a lot of titles to get through, so maybe they won't even bother. So, of the announced 2013 Scream Factory titles, which one are you most in particular excited about? Fans?
I love Rolling Thunder, and so that was one I was happy to go back and get. At first they said no because it's one of their MOD titles, and so I went back to them and I said, well, what about Blu-ray? Because that wouldn't affect your MOD deal. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's true, let me look into it. So we only have Blu-ray rights on it, but, you know.
Hey, that's going to be plenty for a lot of people.
Yep.
To close off this, before we kind of delve into the fan-submitted questions, you guys did mention a few months ago a box set that was being planned for Halloween 2013. Do you want to elaborate a pinch for us on that?
I can tell you this, it might actually end up being more than one, so if I get all that I'm working on.
That's interesting. I think we'll take that for what it is now. And
you're going to have to take Poe for an answer.
You asked about Poe, yeah.
He did, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He's very, he's a smart cookie, my cameraman.
We have a few bits of price movies that hopefully people will be excited to get on Blu-ray for Christmas.
Every horror fan needs some bits of price on Blu.
Yeah.
Now moving into the 80 Maniacs submitted questions from you guys. This is all from people all over the board, so I'll just go right into it. Are there? I think we've already covered this, but maybe you can discuss a little bit more. Are there other genre films originally released under MGM's mod program, such as The Quatermass Experiment or New Year's Eve, being considered for release?
The only ones that we have at this time are Rolling Thunder, Dark Angel, Incredible Melting Man, which has already been announced, Cohen and Tate, which was an Eric Red film, and that's all. No, Captain America.
The first Captain America?
Yeah.
That's great.
1990.
Did you guys release the sequels?
We did the two TV movies.
The two TV movies.
Yeah, no, this is the what was his name? Albert Pontian film. Yeah,
it's the movie where like Captain America throws the shield and Red Skull catches it, like the most likely of scenarios. But it's very cheese.
Exactly.
Are there future plans for more Empire pictures, such as Eliminators, Zone Troopers, or even Trancers?
We definitely have some, yes.
Some. That's what we'll take for now. Can fans expect to see non-horror titles from the MGM catalog, such as Dark Angel or maybe even sex comedies, because MGM definitely had a wealth of those?
Yeah, there won't be any sex comedies, but not that I can think of, but Tank Girl, Eve of Destruction, so there are definitely some titles that fall out of our typical genre.
That's always good. Stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. What are Scream Factory's plans in regards to releasing foreign horror films? Or is there even a possibility for Toho's Dracula trilogy, perhaps?
Yeah, that's a good one. I had a very, though rewarding for me to put them out, but not rewarding for the company I worked with. But, I put out those Paul Naschy films. And, they looked beautiful. We did extras and everything. I couldn't give them away. And we paid a ridiculous amount of money for them. So sometimes the foreign horror is really tough. I did a lot of Japanese horror. I put out Audition when I was working at Ventura Distribution. So, it's possible, but it's sometimes it's tough. The returns on your investment don't always
that's really what it's down to.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Somebody asked what film was the most difficult to obtain throughout your entire career in the home video industry, if you can even scale that down to one.
Yeah, really. I think the Roger Corman was really a big thing for me because I had tried to get it when I was at BCI.
Right.
I had actually, Disney had the library for a while. I had actually convinced Disney into sub-licensing some of the titles
Which is rare,
to BCI. Yeah, Disney's difficult to deal with. But they realized they didn't know what they were doing with the library when they were putting out, the Kelly Preston nature films and not putting out Galaxy of Terror.
Beach balls and school spirit.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. And so to be able to come back and get that was... Yeah, that's probably the one that...
Were there any films, at least at this point in time, from Universal or MGM that were just hands-off at this point, that they just said no?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely,
yeah.
Plenty, so, but you're working on
Actually, Universal, of my list, I don't think they said no to anything that I can remember. Fox, the one that really hurt me the most when I did the Fox deal for 20 titles, I really wanted Phantom of the Paradise. And at the time, Tom Rothman, who ran...
his wife was in...
Yeah, his wife was Jessica Harper. And the guy at Fox that I dealt with said, you know, I think my head would be on a platter if Tom Rothman found out I licensed Phantom of the Paradise to you, so I can't do it.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Because that's a big one people would be looking for.
Yeah.
Can you share with us any particular reasons you wanted to see the films you've chosen under the Screen Factory line be in it?
You know, just that I was fans of the films as well, you know, so... You know, as an acquisition person in this business, to be able to put out something that you're a fan of is great. And I mean, you know, you put all your love and your time into it, and yeah, I mean, they all are titles that I liked, and actually Deadly Blessing I'm not a big fan of, but it had never been out on DVD.
Right. It's
so
Craven. There's a lot going
so that's why I went for it. But so you know, sometimes they're not necessarily movies that I'm a big fan of, but I know that there is an audience out there for it. So, you know, sometimes as an acquisition person, as I've been in my career, is like some people just want to pick out the movies they love, but the movies you love don't necessarily end in, you know, successes. So sometimes you have to put out things that you're not a fan of, but because you know that they're going to be successful and make money for the company, so you have to do it.
Right. Do you expect the Unholy Rollers to ever come out?
We have it.
You do have it?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's a big one, because people have been complaining about that and wanting it, so that's very big.
That was on my original list when I was at BCI, and that's how they cleared it.
It's crazy how years it comes full circle.
I love Claudia Jennings. I spent over a year trying to get Gator Bait, and
we were even trying to do that. We were trying to do our own DVD label, and those were the titles we were first looking at, and it wasn't happening.
No, because the son sort of is managing it, and he is in a lucrative business of selling condos, or I think it was condos or something, and he was always busy doing something else that he couldn't really focus his energy on it. So I just finally gave up, as much as I wanted to put that one out.
They're out on mod now.
Yeah, I know. I just ordered mine from Amazon.
Yeah, they're apparently supposed to look pretty good. I was kind of disappointed because they were like, oh, $10, what a steal, and then you get them in and they're mods and nobody knew. So, but they were cleaned up apparently. They actually look pretty good compared to their.
Well, I was just at the American Film Market, you know, where the buyers go to buy film, and he had taken an ad out in the magazines that was like, you know, the rights are available, and then all of a sudden it's on Amazon. It's like, well, the rights aren't going to be available for U.S. because who else is going to put it out after the MOD's been?
Yeah. Any chance that Shout might pick up the remaining seasons of The Equalizer?
That is one that we really have wanted and have tried to get before, and I think Universal's sort of holding on to it because they're remaking it with Denzel Washington, I think, is the lead.
It kind of keeps going in and out of production.
Yeah, so they're, you know, sometimes those issues, you know, cause us to not be able to get something.
Somebody asked, is there any consideration for Shout Factory to acquire the Golden Harvest WV films that you were planning while you were at BCI?
We have done a deal with Fortune Star, who controls the Golden Harvest library. We are putting out 6 Jackie Chan movies,
and the Bruce Lee documentary,
and the Bruce Lee documentary, and then we have secured the rights to The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, and Game of Death. So we'll be putting out a deluxe Bruce Lee set in July.
Wow.
I'm working on that too, because I'm a big-time Bruce Lee fan. So to get those...
Well, they're doing, I think WB is planning a big 40th anniversary of
the Dragon.
So that's it's going to look nice on a shelf together.
Yeah, well, I'd gone to them and asked them, you know, can I just buy the physical disc for Enter the Dragon so I could put it in our set? And they said, no, sorry. And so I knew at that time they must be working on it. Yeah.
Right. Just to close up on this, what positive and negative aspects did you take with you from when BCI folded and when you moved over to Shout Factory? Like, what experiences from that helped you to make the move over?
Well, it was I needed a job. It was just, it actually worked out perfectly because, you know, BCI folded and I knew the people over at Shout, and, you know, I was just lucky that they were looking for a production person to run the production, and so just worked out as a good fit. And they wanted to be in the film business. They didn't have anybody that, you know, could specialize in it, so it ended up being a great situation. I was lucky. You know, and this business is tough now, you know, as studios start to get smaller, and, you know, a lot of I was looking at an old Rue Morgue the other day, and I'm like, Jesus, 4 of the 4 companies in here that have full-page ads aren't even in business anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, isn't it?
Or actually 5, including PCI. It was in there too.
It's so, kind of reassuring, though, when you see, you know, constantly it's like Shout Factory's kind of developing this niche with people where they think of a nostalgic title or a nostalgic show that they came up with, and they're like, well, I hope Shout Factory gets it. I hope Shout Factory gets it.
Yeah, that's really nice.
You guys have become this sort of mecca where everyone's like, if it's nostalgic and I grew up and I loved it, somebody at this company is going to feel that way too and get it and hopefully give it the treatment that it deserves. So you guys are kind of becoming the leading industry.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, Anchor Bay was so amazing back in the day, and you know, people have said, "Oh, they're just like the new Anchor Bay," and it's like, "Wow, that's nice," because
it's a great compliment.
Yeah, it is, and you know, because I loved what Michael did when he was there, and Jay Douglas, who worked there, and they
this is
really,
kind of like the new Renaissance.
Yeah, they really loved what they were doing, and it's the same here. You know?
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, Cliff, thanks again for taking the time for this 80 Maniacs exclusive interview. I'm Mike Henny. This is Cliff MacMillan again from the Scream Factory line, and be sure to secure all your Scream Factory titles that are coming out in 2013. The easiest way to get them would be Amazon.com. That seems to be the way to go. You know, that way you don't stress yourself out going to Best Buy trying to find titles that aren't there. So go on to Amazon.com and pre-order all your copies. What are the latest ones up for pre-order now? Video Dead?
Prison is up, Video Dead, and Terror Vision, and
The Nest just got moved to February 2.
Yeah, we had to move The Nest. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are all of them.
So there's plenty of Scream Factory titles in 2013, basically. Once again, Cliff, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Take care.